Hello, and welcome back to another video. I am already really late to doing this. It is the 16th of September when I am filming this, and it is at time of the month that we yap about the books that we read for the previous month. So today I will be talking about the 10 books that I read in August. Without further ado, as we do always in these videos, grab your coffee, grab your soft drink, grab your energy drink, grab a snack, whatever it is. Grab a refreshment because we're probably going to be here a little while. Love that sound. Before I get into the video, as always, when I am doing my monthly wrap-up videos, I always do my own rating and I always give the Goodreads community rating as well, just because it's something that interests me. I love to see whether or not I'm in par with the reading community as a whole or whether or not I'm a bit different in some aspects. So let's just get into the first book, shall we? First book of the month that I read was Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the third book in the Caravel series. This is the next book after Donatella's book with Legend, and this is kind of, well, as it says, the finale and sums everything up. However, there are so many twists and turns again towards the end of these books. Like, this book and this series is something that just always seems to keep me on my toes, and I'm always surprised. Yes, it is fantasy, but I just really have enjoyed this series so much because of the magical elements. It's more of a cozy magical fantasy, and it just keeps me on my toes. And I'm very late to the game in regards to this series, I know that, but I have been wanting to get onto the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber, but everyone has said to me to read the Caravel series first. So I went out and I got all three plus the novella. Now I have actually read the first book of Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. As you are watching this video right now, I have read it. So there's a little sneak peek into next month's monthly wrap up. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Book 2 is still definitely my favorite Donatella and Legends story, but this one was very close to that as well. So I ended up giving this book a 4.25 and the Goodreads community rating was a 4.14. The next book that I read was actually on my Kobo. I don't have a physical copy of it, but that was Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. Honestly, I didn't love that book. I was very in the middle of like, did I like that? Did I not? And I, in the end, was just feeling really neutral. There was nothing that was kind of like pulling me to be like, yes, I can't wait to get into bed to read this, or, you know, I want to pick up my book and read it now. I wonder what happens next. Like, there was nothing like that. And it is one of her earlier books. I think it's her second book that she's written. Feels like someone's first or second book when they're trying to find their feet and trying to find their footing in the writing world, if that makes sense. So I ended up being very neutral with that one and I gave it a 3, and the Goodreads community rating for that one was a 3.68. Moving on to my third book for the month was something that I have been putting off but also like could not wait to pick up, if that even makes any sense. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is the final ACOTAR book. Well, not really, because as we know now, the draft for the next book has been written. So there will be another book coming, probably multiple. But I was just looking forward to this one so much. From the start, I was so intrigued by Nesta and Cassian. Especially Nesta, I just felt like I had this pull to her, which I don't usually have a pull to the female characters of books. I'm very much pulled to a lot of the male characters. I was just really pulled to Nesta from the get-go, and I was just so curious to see, after everything happens, how she kind of goes and transitions. Well, we know that that hasn't been a very good transition and she has definitely struggled with it. Did really like that Cassian was so patient with her and he was so understanding, and he has his own story too and his own battles and own trauma and everything that got him to where he is. So just to see the way that he cares for and nurtures Nesta in a way that she wants. I feel like if she had someone that was just smothering her and just constantly at her, then this would have been a very different feel to the book. But Cassian just gets her. I was so excited to finally get Nesta and Cassian's book, and it was the ending that I hoped for. However, I thought towards the end, I was like, oh yes, this is so good. Winners. Thing happened at the end and I was like, no. Right at the end, no, that cannot happen. If you know, you know. Then it was all a setup. So I'm not going to say anything else. I try to keep everything spoiler free. And I know, again, I am late to the game with the ACOTAR series. There are so many people out there who have already read this. I really enjoyed this one. This was definitely my second favorite of the series behind A Court of Mist and Fury. I ended up giving this a 4 and Goodreads community rating was a 4.45. Next up was a book that it's honestly not that old. It's only been out a couple of months, but ever since I bought it, I knew I wanted to read it, but ever since I bought it, I just kept putting it off and just leaving it on the TBR shelf, which is what's next to me here. Hopefully that angle is okay. I've just had to swap to my phone. But yeah, this was a book that was very personal to me. I had a family member, my nan, pass away due to Alzheimer's. I just felt like I was going to have this really strong emotional attachment to this book, and I did. And that book was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. I love her writing. Her books are just so seamless and easy to read. And again, this was something that was obviously like a bit of a touchy topic. You don't really see much of this representation occurring in books. She just did it so well and so flawlessly, and I really enjoyed it, and it just felt so personal. Like it felt like you were along for the journey. Obviously Samantha, her mum has dementia, and she ends up moving back into the family home where her brother also moves into, and her sister is also living with her kid. They also live with their mum and dad. Her dad is her mum's full-time carer, and then they've also got her grandma in there. So yeah, it is a very family orientated, family feel, and you just feel like you're going through the trenches with them. Just the way in which Abby Jimenez wrote about the dementia episodes and things that happen along the way was just such a true representation of dementia. And yeah, I just feel like because it is such a sensitive, touchy thing that's not represented in books very often, I feel like you're either going to do it well or you're not going to do it justice, and Abby Jimenez definitely did it well. Samantha ends up moving home. Just before she moves away, she meets Xavier, who is a vet. They just form this instant connection. They can't stop thinking about each other, and it just felt like right person, wrong time kind of thing. But it's also alongside the journey of Samantha's mum's dementia. It's also a love story and that coming together of a relationship as well. So very much so a bit of a roller coaster, this book, because it's like, yay, a happy thing, and then you're like, oh no, and then it's like, oh okay, like let's be hopeful, oh no, oh yay. That's what it kind of feels like. And there's definitely a lot of grief and definitely a lot of growth in this book as well. And yeah, I just thought this was done really well, and I ended up giving it a 4.5, and the Goodreads community rating was a 4.03. The next book was Training the Heart by Paisley Hope, and this book was about Wade and Ivy. Ivy is the new horse trainer that comes to the ranch. We get to see her come to the ranch in the first book, and Wade obviously bears the burden of the family business and the family ranch. He's also trying to escape his failed marriage. He's got a very, I don't even know how to describe his ex-wife in a nice way. I was very much invested in Wade's story, especially in the first book. She's a very manipulative and controlling person, and it's almost like he's ready to pull away, but then she's trying to pull him back and manipulate him to coming back to her, and he's finally moving on, and then, you know, she tries to interfere again in a different way. Ivy comes to the ranch. She's the horse trainer, and they go on this journey of working together. They've got this secret attraction to each other, and it's kind of like, no. Ivy's like, no, I'm not going for the boss, and Wade's very closed off, closed book, doesn't want a relationship, doesn't want anything because of his previous marriage, and that's still not officially sorted. So he's very hesitant, but yeah, they've both got these feelings and this sexual attraction. They give in to their emotions and their feelings and their urges. Let's just say that, urges. This was a very spicy book. Yeah, but I really like this book. I really love Paisley Hope's writing style. I just feel like this could have been double the size and I would have read it in the same amount of time. Like, it's just so easy to read. And yeah, it's definitely spicy. And yeah, I loved it. I really did. I loved it. And I loved their dynamic, and I loved the banter in this series. You just feel like they're the people next door. So I ended up giving this a 4.5, and Goodreads gave it a 4.07. The next book that I went on to was Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. Like I said earlier in this video, I have started the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber, so that means that I had to have read the last two. I will admit, I honestly didn't really love this. I just feel like it was very jumpy, and they tried to get so many different things kind of closed off and happening within this book. And I was honestly so confused at one point, and I was just like, wait, what is happening? And I'd have to go back and reread. But I did finish this in a day. In saying that, it was a very short book. I think it was like 203 pages. Yeah, so I remember I sat down and I read it in the one day. Honestly, this book is so beautiful. Like, there is all this artwork through it, and it's just amazing. So whoever, illustrations by Rosie Fowwinkle. She's got a very mystical name, doesn't she? Rosie, the drawings and everything in here, the illustrations were just so beautiful. I ended up giving this a 3, and Goodreads community rating is a 3.68. The next book was also a book that I read on my Kobo, like Meet Me at the Lake, and that was Cash by Jessica Peterson, which is the first book in the Lucky River Ranch series. Honestly, if you give me a cowboy romance, like, am I really going to have anything bad to say? Because the genre is just my favorite. I don't have anything else to say other than that. But yes, I have already downloaded the other 2 books that are currently out on my Kobo, because I am just like, nope, I just want to get straight back into it, into that world. I just loved the 2 main characters' relationship, from going to be like sworn enemies, cannot stand each other, to then again, all this sexual tension. And again, same kind of situation. They're both kind of the bosses and learning off each other, working through this dynamic after the main character's father passes away, and there's all these clauses and everything in the will for her to be able to get her inheritance. Actually also really freaking loved that our main character has a cowboy boots company. She designs and sells cowboy boots with her best friends, and I just think like that would be my dream job. Honestly, I would love to do something like that. So that was another thing that just pulled me in. But I just loved the found family in this book. I'm sure you can imagine just all these people, family and not family, blood related, coming together and working on a ranch, and it's just like, that just feels like home to me. So yeah, the found family aspect in this book was just, yeah, I already cannot wait to get into the next one. I ended up giving that one a 4, and Goodreads community rating was also a flat 4. The next book that I went on to and read was The Striker by Anna Huang. I can't remember what the name of this series is going to be, but I know that there is another book, The Defender, coming out sometime towards the end of this year, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, obviously they are soccer positions, The Striker, and then we're moving on to The Defender in the next book. I did really like this book, and I was pleasantly surprised, because I am not a soccer fan. I do not like watching soccer. Honestly, couldn't even tell you the rules. I'm just not into it. I'm not into soccer. My husband would probably kill me by saying that, because he very much is a soccer boy. He grew up playing soccer before he went into rugby league. This was about Asher, he's obviously the striker, and Scarlett. Asher and Vincent have this rivalry. They are both 2 very good players, different positions, and they are, you know, very competitive. After the accolades, they don't get along. They hate each other. They despise each other. They're very competitive towards each other and wanting to beat the other in everything. Asher ends up getting a trade to the team that Vincent plays on. So then they become teammates. You know, they get in trouble from their coach because the chemistry on field is very much so like they are still enemies. They're not working together. It's not a cohesive unit in the team. And the coach just is fed up, and he's like, look, you boys either do this program for me for the entire off season and you work together and you come back to me next season, and I want to see you getting along and gelling and making the team feel like a team. And funnily enough, that program is actually ballet program run by Scarlett. Scarlett and Asher just have this instant chemistry and instant connection. However, Scarlett's like, no, I am not dating a footballer ever again, even though she's got this attraction to Asher, because Vincent ends up going to look after his dad, who gets very sick. And funnily enough, I don't know if I have actually mentioned this, but Scarlett and Vincent are brother and sister, or half brother and sister. So he ends up going to look after their dad, and Asher and Scarlett continue the program. They end up moving their training facility to Asher's house just because of a paparazzi scare. Asher is a very predominant person in the football industry and is highly followed by paparazzi. It just kind of comes with his fame, and Scarlett kind of gets sucked into that through her work. Paparazzi, you know, trying to come into the ballet studio and see what's kind of going on. But yeah, anyway, it is a bit of coming and going. There are a lot of things that happen in here, a lot of scares, coping mechanisms, and also like a lot of mental internal battles. And both characters, Scarlett and Asher, I feel like they had to kind of go apart for a while to be able to focus on their own personal growth before they could kind of come back together as a couple, because Scarlett's fighting all these demons within herself, illness and injuries and that sort of stuff. And then Asher is also going through, he uses street racing as a coping mechanism, and he has a lot of issues with his dad. Yeah, just lots of different things that they kind of have to go their separate ways to deal with for a little while, and then they end up coming back together. Because it was a nice story about a lot of growth. It was big though. There were parts where I just felt like it went forever. Like I just don't feel like a sports romance needs to be that big. But anyway, that's just me. I ended up giving it a 4, and Goodreads community rating was a 3.76. The next book that I went on to read was King of Greed by Anna Huang. Yes, I did read 2 Anna Huang books in a row. That was my initial TBR over there, already done, and I had 2 other books that I could pick up towards the end of the month. I was just dying to continue on Kings of Sin series because I really love this, and this one was one that I have been itching and wanting to get to for quite a while. It is Dominic and Alessandra's story, the Davenport story, and I just feel like I wish there was more books like this. This book is about a marriage that's failing. They kind of go their separate ways. They have their own journeys. But the main character doesn't give up. It's the girl that pulls away, and the girl that's putting up her boundaries, and she's like saying, no, you meet me here. And I just felt like that was so empowering, because I feel like in a lot of books that are like that, the male is controlling the situation. So I just found this book so refreshing, and it was so nice to read about a married couple going their ways and then doing their things and working on the things that weren't working within themselves, but also within their marriage, and then coming back together and making it 10 times better. There are obviously things that happen along the way, and I'm still very confused because I feel like, are we going to find out in the next couple of books if something happens to these two? Because the ending with Dominic and his brother, like that's a very toxic relationship. They need to watch their back. Let's just say that. But I'm like, do we find out if something ever happens, or do we just think, no, they just live constantly looking over their shoulder? That's all I'm going to say about that. But I did really like this one. I gave it a 4.25, and Goodreads community rating was 3.92. Now on to our last book of the month. I feel like I've been talking forever. My back is actually really hurting. The Let Them Theory. Now, I have actually started 75 Soft at the moment, so I am reading a chapter of a self-help book each day. That's one of the things that I am doing and ticking off. And the first book that I picked up for that was The Let Them Theory, because I thought it was such a nice way to be able to tick off a lot of non-fiction, because I'm not a big non-fiction self-development reader. I just find that I get very bored very easily, and I just can't consume it. Like, especially of a night time, I just don't have the capacity to be taking in the knowledge and the thinking that comes with a self-help book. Like, I can easily read a romance where I don't have to think, but one that I'm doing like internal work, it's not something that I really want to do right before bed, because I feel like then I'm not going to be able to switch my brain off. So the 75 Soft challenge has actually been really good, because I'm waking up at 5:30 and I'm doing morning stretches, and then I read my chapter of my self-development book first thing in the morning, and then it's done, because I feel like otherwise I'll just put it off or not do it. So I just need to make sure that I do that first thing in the morning. So yeah, the first book up on that was The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and can I just say, I was heavily disappointed by this book. This book has so much hype. While I get the concept, and I do like the concept, I just feel like those 2 words there, let them, is all that was said in this book. Like, you apply it to so many things. Let them, da da da, let them, da 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 da, let them, da 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 da, let them. That's what I felt like this book was like, and I didn't love it. I honestly didn't love it. I ended up in the end giving it a 3, but when I think about it now, I'd probably go and even give it like a 2.5, because do you need let them written 50 times on one page for a book this length? Like, I think we get it. Anyway, this was a good marketing strategy, and so many people obviously have this tattooed on them. The principle is there, but I just feel like I didn't like it. So anyway, I ended up giving it a flat 3. Like I said, I probably, now reflecting back even more, would give it a 2.5, but the Goodreads community rating was a 4.09. So there are a lot of people out there that do like it, and I mean, of course there are, because every second man and his dog has let them tattooed on them at the moment. So sorry if you do, there's no hate, but yeah, I just did not enjoy that at all. Anyway, that concludes our reading month for August. In total, there were 10 books. Sadly, no 5 stars, but there were some that were close. Thank thank you so much for watching. If you're stuck in this long and were here yapping about books with me, then thank you so much for staying until the end if you did. But I will see you very, very shortly in another video very soon. Bye.